We are live. Go ahead, JD. Kick us off.
Hey fans, welcome back. Talking ball with Jack and JD. Everything about Duke basketball. We just had fun watching the Duke go to 2-0 as they ran up 100 points on Army. Not a terrible surprise, but as Jack will take us through, that 100 could have easily been 120.
I think so. I mean, there was a stretch in the first half where I think we were 1 for 12, 1 for 11 from the 3 point line. Proctor missed three open threes in the first half. Um, we just missed a lot of open looks, it felt like, in the first half. And then as the game went on, obviously we had a huge second half with 57 points in the second half. We did give up 38 points, which is not a great look for Duke. But with that being said, quickly going around the horn, we scored 100 points. I think this is pretty interesting. Nobody had more than 15. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, we were led by, let's see, led by Concanipple, 15 points, Tyrese Proctor, 14, Cooper Flagg, 13, who is limited by cramps again. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. Sion James, 12, and Malawach and Foster each with 11 for your double figure scores. Gillis had 7. Darren Harris in a couple of minutes, basically near the end of the game, had 5. Hubbard had 3. And Isaiah Evans and
Fan
Malik Brown
favorite. Fan
each had
favorite.
2 points. So, JD, I'm gonna let you go for a little bit here. I'm gonna try to get some tags in so we can get in a few more watchers and listeners here.
Happy to take over here. So I think in their second game, it was another opportunity for Coach Shire to test out things. And I'm going to start with the biggest negative for me. There is still not a point guard. It is not Foster. It is Foster is not the guy that can bring the ball up and sort of, go, you're going over there, come on up, set it up, whatever. He does not have control of the offense. And I think this is going to be a very interesting issue for Coach Shire, especially as we go into that stretch of 4 games against ranked teams. And we'll find out actually Tuesday night, Kentucky. Um, so I'm a little concerned about Foster. Now, the good news is Proctor off ball, as you said, missed those early threes and then looked like Jared McCain. He just was beautiful in terms of his stroke. And so he's fine as the off guard, the 2 guard. But early on in our shows, Jack, I said that maybe it was K2 that was going to have to bring the ball up, but it looks like it may actually be Coop, and it could be Coop either bringing the ball up at 6'9", where he'll have clear vision of where the Duke players are. It's not his natural position. Or what's going to happen here is Foster is just going to have to get the ball cross midcourt, give it to Coop, and then Coop will direct it as a point forward. And obvious ties to Larry Bird, the ability at 6'9" to sort of run the offense. But that's getting ahead of ourselves, and we have to first see what happens in the Kentucky game.
Yeah, yeah, and speaking to that point, like, look, I said in one of our earlier episodes, I am driving the Caleb Foster bandwagon, and I thought he was going to have a really good year. And I have to admit, after a few exhibition games, a couple of regular games, he just doesn't. He's a scoring guard. It seems like in a point guard's body, although he is 6'5", so he can certainly play off the ball. And it was interesting. I don't know if you caught this, but Spatola, who's doing the the color on the game tonight, as he did in the first game of the season against Maine. Mentioned how Proctor and Foster need to be kind of like the Celtics guards in Derek White
Yes,
and Drew
yes.
Holiday, and I thought
It
that
was an
was
interesting.
I thought it made a lot of sense, because you look at the Celtics, their offense is initiated by their wings, right? Kind of like Duke this year. They've got obviously Jason Tatum, as we all know, and Jaylen Brown. And similar to Duke this year, our two best offensive players are wings, Cooper Flag and Con Knipple. And so
My teriyaki wings.
teriyaki wings, yeah. And so it's really essential that it's not scoring and it's not even necessarily playmaking that you get from Foster and Proctor, but it's defense and it's connectivity and it's just the ability to get guys in the right spots at the right times. And
Are you saying that they can do that, or that's the question?
that's the question. That's the
Yeah,
question.
right.
And
Okay.
and and I thought it was a good comparison from Spatola on in the game where he's talking about how that's the ideal version that you get, from these guys. And I think Proctor especially showed, he's made an adjustment to his game playing off the ball. And I thought even in the first half, I know I mentioned early he missed 3 open shots from the same spot in the corner, but even as it was going, I was very happy with the way he was playing. I sent you a text. I said he's aggressive. He's looking for a shot. I didn't mind the fact that he missed those shots because I felt like they were good open shots within the flow of the offense. And I felt like he was playing well. He had 3 assists and 1 turnover. He didn't have any points at halftime. He finished with 3 assists and 1 turnover. Not bad. But the one thing he did an excellent job of, didn't realize it until looking at the stats now, but in game saw him have a few rebounds. He ended up with 5 rebounds. And as a guard, that's a really good number. And I feel like he has figured out more so than Foster how he needs to play around Flag and Knipple.
Who led us in assists?
We had, actually, I was going to say we had 3 guys who had 3 assists, but that is not true. Sion James led us in assists with 4, which I think is an appropriate time for my hot take here to say, listen.
Bring it on. Bring it
Yeah.
on.
And again, I want to say, I was driving the train, driving the Caleb Foster bandwagon. I thought he was going to have a great year. I still think he could, but I think it might be better for him and better for the team if they flip Sion James and Caleb Foster. And Foster comes off the bench. It gives him a little bit more, let's say, creative flexibility. I've noticed when he's out there without Flag and or Knipple or even both, he seems to play a little bit better, and he's having a little bit more difficulty playing with them. And so I think he can be more of a spark plug off the bench in that lineup. Also, Sion James can clearly bring the ball up, which is what you're looking for. And defensively, he is better than Caleb Foster. So I don't think you lose very much, although the one thing you do lose if Sion James is in over Foster, I would say overall, is that Foster is a better outside three-point shooter than James. James is capable, but not quite as good as Foster if we're just, evaluating the entire games. But he certainly can pass. He's a better defender. He can get downhill. He's very physical. I think it makes sense to make that adjustment.
How did they finish as a team? From 3-point.
They finished 17 of 38, which means that they must have went absolutely insane after starting off like 1 for 11.
1 for 11, right? So 38 attempted threes. They're knocking on 40 attempted threes. I think they have a lot of players that are capable of hitting the 3, but if that's what you live and die on, that is going to be a problem against the top ranked teams because, you know, if you're saying we're just going to keep putting up threes, I think I love when they get the ball into Mal. I love when Coop drives. I love when they mix it up, but 38 attempted threes. Now I know it must have been pretty tempting to do it against Army, where they had height advantages at almost every position. So that's why Kentucky will be a better test.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much I agree with you on that one because look at the NBA right now. The best team in the NBA as of right now is the Boston Celtics. Nobody shoots more threes than the Boston Celtics. And while I hear your point that certainly leaves the door open to on any given night you're not going to hit your shots, and that is certainly true. I also think it opens the door for maybe on a night where you shouldn't win if you're playing the numbers game and Duke shoots 43s and the other team shoots 20. Even if we shoot at 33% instead of the 44% we shot tonight, there's a better chance that you win the game because of the math. And
All right. But I'm going to turn. All right. So let me turn that around on you. You go 1 for 11 from 3 point range as we did tonight. And if you do that against, you know, a Kentucky, an Auburn, or whatever, you could find yourself in a hole pretty quickly. And last year, we found ourselves in that hole, always having to dig ourselves out. So, yes, it is. I think it's a very valid point that the NBA game and college will follow the NBA to some degree. It's about taking 3 pointers now. Steph Curry changed the game. He did change the game more so than almost any other player. And I will say, though, that it will, we have to have other weapons. We just have to have other weapons than taking 38 3 point shots.
I say take more. I say take more threes. The thing is with this team, here's my thing. I know we were 1 for 11 to start the game, but I didn't. It's how you get your threes, right? I think that's an important part of it. And they weren't step back contested threes or even contested catch and shoot threes. They were open 3 pointers. And just to use Proctor as the example, just because it's the easiest right now to recall, his were all open threes from the corner. Maybe one was slightly contested, but I felt like they were all good looks. And I understand what you're saying in terms of you want to have a balanced attack, and I agree. I think if you want to nitpick one aspect of that, I felt like in this game in particular, with Army's lack of size, Malawat should have had more points. And there was a few times where, quite frankly, he did the right basketball thing.
Yeah, but he missed the
He
dunk.
missed it. No, but even putting that aside, he did miss a dunk. There was at least 1 or 2 times where I noticed he got the rebound, and 9 times out of 10, he's doing the right thing. And he's kicking it out and trying to find an open shooter. It's the thing Coach K used to always say, back in like the early 2000s, the best time to get a three was off an offensive rebound. And
okay, what did Mal finish from the free throw line? I had him at
hold on,
three.
let me finish my point. I'll answer you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
There's a couple of times where I felt like Malawach could have got the offensive rebound, turned, and finished where there just wasn't size in the paint. And that's where, if you're looking for other options, I think that's where it could have been. Now, to answer your question.
That was a good point. That was a good point. Glad you. Okay.
To answer your question, yeah, thanks for not cutting me off there. He did 3 of 4 today from the free throw line.
And so he was 1 for 2 in his first, and then 2 for 2. That guy has a nice stroke for a 7-footer who's really young and not been playing the game very long.
No, what they say in the broadcast, he's the 5th youngest basketball player in the country. And I would I'll go on a cliff here and say he's probably been playing basketball the least of any of those guys. Because I am pretty confident Cooper Flagg started playing basketball before Malawach, and I'd say the same with Quaintance of Arizona State. I don't know who the other two guys are, but I'll go on
Right.
a limb, and make that assumption.
So let's talk a little bit about K2's game. I thought it was, you know, all of a sudden the hype was building. And as I sent you, even the New York Times wrote a whole piece about it's not just Coop. You got to watch the other wing, Con Knippel. And I thought he may have read the article tonight, and it was not his best game so far.
I mean, you can say that. He still led the team in scoring. He had 15 points. He hit 4 threes. He was 5 and 9 from the field. He had 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. Including he had one of his 2 rebounds was a key offensive rebound early in the game. He just ripped it from the hands, from somebody on Army. That ended up with, I think, a Foster 3 early on. And that is something I've noticed. He just has a knack for finding the basketball. Now, do I disagree that this was not his best game of
I
between?
think he should have gone for 30 tonight.
I don't disagree. All I'm saying is that that's where the expectations are with him right now. Is that he was 5 of 9 from the field, 4 of 6. He shot 67% from 3, and you're like, semi rightfully so. He should have been better. And
No, no. I mean, we can debate that, but I thought that if I see his trajectory getting better and better and better, so maybe tonight he was perfectly adequate, good, contributed to the team, but didn't sort of take us to a higher level through his own contribution. And I want to take the conversation to Cooper Flag. Even when he may not be scoring, and the announcers said that tonight, but you don't have to be a great announcer to just watch the game. That guy's on the floor going after loose balls, trying to get the ball, and potentially jeopardizing, a multi-zillion dollar career as he dives after basketballs. You've got to love his heart.
it's infectious.
Yes. And so you wonder, I, I, all right, so let's go to the bench for a minute because I love the strength, literally, of that bench. So it's Sion James. It's go ahead, help me out.
Let's see if you can do it. You're cheating. All right, it's
I
Mason
am.
Gillis
Mason Gillis was great. I mean,
and
Mason,
and Malik Brown. I want to
right?
say this. Hold on. I'll let you go. You let me finish before I'll let you finish your thought.
I just think that when all right, so the beginning of the game doesn't go as well as I think it should, and I there's something about that core group of the 3 guys you just mentioned that seems to be a stopgap. It's like, and it'd be interesting to see in a Kentucky game, is that what happens in a Kansas game? Do those guys who have that senior experience enter the game and all of a sudden have the ability, if Duke isn't heading in the right direction, have the ability to enter the game and ensure that, look, I don't know what to expect from them from scoring. Maybe it'll be good. They each can score, but at least they seem to be able to stop the damage and let Coach Shire get the team to reset.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I liked Mason Gillis when he was at Purdue. I thought he was a good player. Just watching from afar, right? Can't say I watched every Purdue game. Maybe I watched 10, over the time he was there. But I
Well,
always,
even when he was on the court, you couldn't exactly see him over Zach Edey.
well, there's some of that too. Um, and and I think the one thing that must be nice for Gillis is that, like, he's a great 3-point shooter. Playing with Zach Edey, right? He only could shoot threes because Zach Edey is parked in the paint. It's hard for someone else to go into the paint. Now he's has the ability to get to the basket because the floor is much more space. And the thing I was going to say is I liked him at Purdue. I love him as a Duke player. Even if we're 2 games in, his energy, his ability to shoot the three, the way he's rotating on defense. He seems like a leader on the court. Him and Sion James. Um, as you said, they're a real stabilizing presence with the team. And I think those two guys, while different, can kind of like have similar impacts. And then there's Malik Brown, who he's very different than Malawach, right? Malawach as a center is a traditional shot blocking big man. Like that, he's gonna protect the rim. Malik Brown, he does things that, like, he checked into the game in the first half. Immediately, he's pressuring the guy up past the 3-point line, gets a deflection. Army gets the ball back. They try to make a quick pass. They lose it. And then Duke ends up with a Cooper Flag alley-oop from Proctor. And I think he had 2 blocks and a steal. He probably forced 2 or 3 more turnovers, and he couldn't have played more than 20 minutes. He had 18 minutes tonight. I just think defensively, Malik Brown just provides a very different look than Malawach, which I think is important because depending on which team we're playing against, like, for example, when we play Kansas, Malawach is going to be really important in that matchup because why? Kansas has 7'1" Hunter Dickinson. And that's
Right.
going to be a tough matchup for Malik Brown, who's 6'8". But maybe against other teams where they're playing a little bit smaller and faster, you're going to want to have Malik Brown out there who has the versatility to match up with a guard or a wing, and he's not going to have any difficulty.
So run us through the minutes for the core 3. How much time did they get tonight?
It's very interesting because according to Duke's stats, all 3 of them had the same number of minutes, 18.
And I will tell you that from my limited exposure to the Duke coaching staff, none of this is an accident. They go into the game and they have a plan about how many minutes they want to give. But that means that they were just shy of playing a half. And Jack, that kind of takes us back to this platoon business of, are you going to see more players getting 20 minutes? And the core 3 there, who I think are the stabilizers, you do too, they're getting almost just shy of a half a game.
And I think it depends on quite frankly Foster and Proctor. How many minutes do Evans and Harris get? Because I had a hot take earlier. I don't know what you'd call this, like an inferno take, but I feel like Harris and Evans might be the 3rd and 4th most talented offensive players on this team. And
wait whoa, what? Hold on a second. Where are you going with that? 3rd or 4th? So you're saying after the Wings, they're 3 and 4.
in terms of pure offensive talent, I think so.
Okay, so let's stay there. How many minutes did they get tonight?
Very few. Isaiah Evans was certainly ahead of Harris. He got some minutes in the first half. He had 9 minutes. Harris had 7 minutes. But here's the thing: these guys, to borrow a phrase, they get buckets every time they play. They score. I would love to know, like maybe in the when we do the preview for Kentucky, I'll have this information. I would love to know their points per minute because,
Points per minute. Absolutely.
like Harris, or sorry, let's do Evans first. He had 9 minutes. He had 6 points
Yep.
in only 9 minutes. Harris had 5 points in 7 minutes. There's like, I know I'm kind of going out on a limb, but I really don't think I'm going out too far here. These two guys, especially when you consider Isaiah Evans is the only other McDonald's All-American in terms of the freshmen on this roster. And while Darren Harris, which is kind of crazy to say, was the lowest ranked freshman of this team, you and I don't watch a ton of high school basketball, but we both happened to see him play at Paul VI, and
Yes, we did.
we're like, this guy is the lowest ranked guy. He's incredible. And he did it over the summer. We had, as you like to mention, Paolo gave him a shout out because he went 8 for 8 from 3 in a practice. And every time he's played, whether it's been an exhibition or a game, he's come in and hit shots. And it's just tough to say because, like you mentioned in the first half, there was moments where they kind of felt stagnant. And I feel like those two guys can be spark plugs offensively. Defensively, you can have some arguments,
Okay.
but
So
offensively, I think they provide.
No, no, no. I think you're getting. This is going to add fuel to the fire about a platoon, because in a tune-up game for Kentucky, we know Coach K would have limited it to 7 or 8 players. Tonight, I know it's a blowout. He might have eventually gotten Hubbard in for his 3. I'm not certain he would have, but look at the minutes that you're talking. The core 3, 18 minutes each, and Evans and Harris each had productive minutes, to your point. And if you could look at them as, okay, the first 5 isn't clicking, or, so maybe we put in the next 5. This is very, very interesting and unlike any other Duke team to be able to say that we have 10 deep, and clearly we do, based on productivity of the last 2 players that were 10 deep there. And I'm sure we're going to have fans and listeners who are going to, I don't agree, I don't know. It'll be very telling to see what happens Tuesday night against Kentucky.
Yeah, and speaking of that, one thing I think we should give major credit to Evans and Harris for being productive in the limited minutes, because that is really hard to do. It's really hard to come into a game after sitting there for, both players have done it where they've sat for the entire first half and then had to come in the second half and, make an impact. And that's a big challenge, especially you're talking about 2 guys who were their leading scorers at their respective high schools last season and probably played, the vast majority of the minutes for each of their games. And so this is a big adjustment for them, and they seem to be handling it based off their production like really well. So hats off to, both of those guys who seem to be really, taking their lack of minutes in stride and really, forcing Coach Shire to play them in these minutes at the, end of the games here.
So one of the things I want to add to this is, as, Coach Shire's trying to figure out what is the appropriate mix here. The fact that those 5 guys, for all the reasons, the core 3 plus 2, and add in 6'11" Patrick when he's ready at 250 or
50.
something. Oh my. I mean, there are schools in the country that would kill to have that group as their starting five. You know, the combination of the six of them
Yeah.
somehow being the five. You got big guys, you got guys that can manage the ball. Um, I think that um, either Caleb Foster has to step up his ability to control the game, or he's going to find himself on the bench.
Or just limiting his playing time. Yeah. I don't think that is I don't think that's a hot take. I'll say that. Um,
No, I mean, and let's face it, in the era of one and done, the idea that you're playing because you're going to be there 2, 3, 4 years, you want productivity out of the guys on that team that year. We're not planning on what they might bring us the second year because Duke's already recruiting the next class. And you know, so Coop, I think better chance with Proctor that he will be on the wing and be part of some set. You know, it's really hard to figure out the spacing here because you've got Coop who is starting from one wing and you've got K2 starting from the other wing. So that kind of means that you've got to bring Proctor up higher. And so if there's activity with Coop and K2, that might give that open three, as we saw today, for Proctor from either the far wing all the way in the corner or just to the left or right of the top of the key.
he, from what I noticed today, and even in the last game, Proctor tends to be camped out in the corners and allowing.
When he went on his run and he had those three nice shots, I think at least two of them, if not all three of them, came from to the right of the top of the key.
He hit one, definitely one from the corner, but I'll take your word for it that the others were from the top, which makes sense. You know, he's a guy who the first couple of years at Duke, he's a point guard. That's probably where he's more comfortable operating from. And you know, we're getting close to the end here. I think, again, just to reiterate, I thought he made some really good adjustments tonight. And I think that's going to be really important as we look ahead here to the game with Kentucky, which is going to be this Tuesday at 9 p.m. So the second game of the Champions Classic. Make sure you take a nap, JD. We got to stay up late. And listen, it's going to be a fun game. I was just, as we were going, I was pulling up my phone. Kentucky plays tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I don't remember who they played in their first game, but they had 103 points. They had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in double figures. They had a seventh guy who had 8 points and a ninth guy who had 6 points. They played really 11 guys. 11 guys had double-digit minutes, so they're very deep. They have size. They play one guy that you should at least you won't know the name, but when you see the face, you'll say, "Oh, I remember that guy." Named Andrew Carr. He played at Wake Forest the past couple of years. Transferred to Kentucky. He plays as a power forward. He's about 6'10". So this will be a change because they also have a 6'11", 7-footer in Amari Williams, who was the Defensive Player of the Year. I want to say he transferred from Drexel, but if I have that wrong, I am sure people will let me know, and we will be corrected. But he's a very good defensive player as a center, and not only that, but they have a couple of guards in Kobe Brea and Jackson Robinson who can really shoot the ball, and they are big. They're 6'6", 6'7", and Owe is a guard who can get downhill and score around the basket, and also Last guy I'll mention, so I'll stop rambling here, is Lamont Butler, who transferred over from San Diego State as a point guard, who was a guy who made multiple all defensive teams out in the Mountain West Conference for San Diego State, and last year was the Defensive Player of the Year. So they have two guys, their point guard and their center, who are Defensive Players of the Year in their respective conferences before transferring to Kentucky. It is going to be a much tougher game, and I am very excited about that because these past couple games, while they've been fun, have not been necessarily nail biters. And so I'm looking forward to a more competitive matchup with Kentucky.
Well, and that gives us, if we're about to wrap up, we have 13 minutes to watch Kansas UNC. It should be, which, right? It
Yep.
was on, yep. Or maybe it's halftime or something.
No, 7 o'clock start.
Right. Okay. So we can watch the end of that one, which I don't know why I feel like pointing this out. Kobe White, who played for UNC and is now in the NBA playing for
Chicago.
Chicago. That's why I saw him last night, because I think they were on. I love Kobe White's hair. It is just all over the place. It is just a massive hair there. If this is even possible, it is bigger in the NBA. I mean, Kobe White's, there is just like so much hair up there. And this is like, that comes from somebody who has no hair. So I am deeply jealous of Kobe White. But I think it was important to point that out, only because it's UNC and they're on now and they're our rivals. And Kobe White gave us problems. And so hair and all. Hair and all.
Really good player, Mr. Kobe White. And I mean, yeah. How's that game going, by the way? Let's let me check in before we sign off here. Close game. 5-point game. About 10 minutes to go. 9 minutes and 15 seconds. With that, I think that's an appropriate place. If you guys have been hanging out with us, go watch that game. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Like this video. Helps us grow. Leave a comment below. And we'll be back maybe Sunday. Maybe Sunday we'll do the preview for Kentucky. So we'll have that up on Sunday. And then Tuesday night late, we will be doing the live post-game reaction, which should be a lot of fun. Did I forget anything? Oh, share this with a friend. Share it with a friend. That's the one thing I forgot. We're trying to grow and get to a place where we can do more and more content. And so with that, we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.